There's no way the 15 games included in this feature can be exhaustive. Video games as a medium, as an art form, is typified by boundary pushing. The 14 here are noteworthy for pushing things along, for genuinely innovating, and in some cases, for being brave in how they told their story or the subject matter they tackled. Max Payne. Max Payne raised the bar for cinematic action in video games, appropriating the style of John Woo's gun fu movies. Of course, we can't talk about Max Payne's innovativeness without referencing its bullet time mechanic, an ability to transform shootouts into slow-mo bloodshed. Max Payne's bullet time was clearly indebted to The Matrix, and whilst it wasn't the first video game to feature bullet time, it was the first to do it with such effortless swagger. System Shock. The ways in which System Shock was ahead of the curve are numerous. Its exploration of prescient themes centering on artificial intelligence, transhumanism, ascension, and the human soul is still grimly thought-provoking. Its physics engine revolutionized how objects act in 3D spaces. Its morally gray antagonist grounded its fantastical setting. Its emphasis on player choice and options to avoid combat via groundbreaking hacking abilities. System Shock is an all-time classic, inspiring Prey, Dishonored, Portal to just name a few. Outcast. A fully explorable open world appearing 2 years before Grand Theft Auto 3 isn't why Outcast is ahead of its time. No, this 1999 sci-fi cult classic delivered immersion by the bucket load, far above anything that had come before. NPC conversation was integral to the narrative, but each had daily routines to follow, opinions on each other, and opinions on you, the player. An early example of a reputation system, NPCs will help or hinder you based on how well you've treated them. Enemy soldiers are progressively weakened by lack of food or resources as well, the results of activities you complete for the leaders of each region. Red Dead Redemption 2. Much like Outcast some 2 decades prior, Red Dead Redemption 2 set new precedents for immersive open-world storytelling. Its gorgeous grassland plains, swamps, and misty mountaintops encouraged horseback exploration. Fast travel was not the optimal way to get around. Rockstar deliberately culled the pace of Red Dead's sequel, stuffing the open world with a smorgasbord of side activities and random encounters. Open world games released today are struggling to reach the levels of freedom Red Dead Redemption 2 presented. Mirror's Edge. Flow state is a remarkable thing when it happens in games. The sense of body and mind working in tandem, fluidly uninterrupted. Games had toyed with parkour before Mirror's Edge, but none elicited the serene flow state Mirror's Edge did. This is in large part to its first-person perspective. It's almost textureless, clean lines, and minimal distraction-free color palettes, switching between bright, white, and bold primary colors. Dying Light comes close, but the innovativeness of Mirror's Edge is tough to beat. Metal Gear Solid. An absolute genre-defining masterpiece, Metal Gear Solid changed perceptions of what video games could be via its unashamedly cinematic approach to storytelling. Its groundbreaking stealth gameplay and ingenious fourth-wall breaking shenanigans. Never had a video game toyed with the player as much as Metal Gear Solid, etching Meryl's codec frequency into the game's physical CD case, or, most famously, the Psycho Mantis battle requiring players switch controller ports to evade his mind-reading ability. Shadow of the Colossus. Originally released in 2005 at a time when video game contingent was still debating if the medium could be considered art. Contemplative, bleak, beautiful, befuddling, Shadow of the Colossus put that contest to rest via minimal storytelling, told ostensibly through environmental puzzles masquerading as boss battles. There really was nothing like it at the time, a wholly unique experience with an ending, like some of the world's greatest art, wide open to interpretation. Red Faction. Remarkably groundbreaking for its geomod technology was Red Faction. It's incredible how much destruction developer Volition managed to build into its gameplay, and whilst there was a multiplayer component to the game, the single-player campaign was treated to this bar-raising destruction tech as well. Players could reshape the world around them with unparalleled freedom. See a locked door? Well, blast a hole in the surrounding rock. Want to infiltrate a guarded building? Fashion underground tunnels with rocket launchers. Prior games included scripted destruction, but Red Faction was the first to grant players pure unscripted world-altering capabilities. Shenmue. Sure, Shenmue's stately slice of Japanese life divides fans and critics to this day, but the developers' ambition for what they hoped would become a sprawling series was certainly ahead of its time. Introducing the concept of open-world game design to mass audiences, well, Dreamcast players at least, Shenmue heightened immersion through its day and night cycles, NPCs with jobs and routines, and dynamic weather. The interactivity inherent in its detailed world cemented Shenmue as a trailblazer too, ranging from mundanely examining the objects of a kitchen drawer to hitting the arcades for some vintage game time. Battlezone. Never had a game merge first-person action, real-time strategy, base building, and tank simulation as cohesively as 1998's Battlezone. Whilst the similar in scope Uprising Join or Die released a year earlier, it didn't have the same sense of finesse that Activision's effort exuded. Battlezone dripped in atmosphere, featured dynamic missions inside an engaging dual-perspective campaign, and, crucially given its melding of disparate genres, a sleek interface innovative for its simplicity. Prototype. Prototype's Alex Mercer is the perfect anti-hero. It's as simple as that. So many powers and abilities are stuffed into his skill set that there was no more powerful a feeling possible in games than raising utter carnage in downtown Manhattan and barely feeling a scratch from an army desperate to stop you. In blending shape-shifting, superhero-esque aerial acrobatics, offensive and defensive body augmentations, thermal vision, guns, tanks, and helicopters, Radical Entertainment risked Prototype being a sludge of mechanics. Instead, Prototype is a blast, combining so many combat mechanics seamlessly truly was an achievement ahead of its time. Rage. You can debate until you're blue in the face on the memorability of Rage. It brought legendary developer id Software back from the brink of mediocrity, but its shooting, premise, enemies, story, well, all middle of the road at least, a solid 7 out of 10. Rage, though, had an ace up its sleeve, mega texturing. This tech wasn't new at the time, but thanks to a game engine id Tech 5, Rage's environments artists were able to build in an endless stream of unique textures. Dynamic scaling based on PC capability kept the game running at 60 FPS too, another feature prevalent nowadays but none too common back in 2011. Far Cry 2. If Far Cry 2 were released today, it might be criticized for an overly minimalist approach to open-world game design that's become much more commonplace than it was back in 2008 when it originally released. The thing is, it's Far Cry 2 that arguably started this trend. A true pinnacle of emergent gameplay, zones aren't acquired like a shopping list, and NPCs don't tend to function as quest givers. Instead, it's up to you to head into the bush to cause your own trouble, but beware as guns often malfunction. Exploded vehicles cause rampant bushfires, healing is strictly limited. Far Cry 2 had the confidence here to blend FPS with survival mechanics, with Metal Gear Solid 5, Fallout 4, and The Forest to name a few taking many leaves out of its book. Silent Hill 2. Dealing with mature, taboo, brushed under the carpet subject matter in such visceral ways, intrinsically linking a character's innermost torment to gameplay, to monsters encountered, in crafting an atmosphere so noxious it chokes you, these are all reasons why Silent Hill 2 is an ahead-of-its-time experience and masterpiece, and stands the test of time some 22 years later. In a way, Silent Hill 2 is experimental. For one, its story is told extremely subtly, a very hands-off approach which many developers, plus Konami themselves, haven't learned from since. So, what are your thoughts on this? Go ahead and share them in the comments below. And if you like this video, please subscribe to the channel and enable all notifications by clicking the bell icon to get new video updates. We upload every day and would really appreciate your support. Thanks for watching.